Hey there, welcome to another episode of my podcast. Today I want to revisit this experience, which is now already on the 17th episode, this journey of being a podcaster. It all started back in January, end of January. I'm always experimenting new things, always trying to build new projects, trying to reach to people in different ways. So wanted to try out something different. And I've been inspired by Arvid Kahl podcast that on every Friday he just shares his building public journey. Some thoughts that he has in mind, something related to the way he's building his product. And I really enjoy these podcasts, about 15 to 20 minutes long, but I always get a lot of it from his just sharing how he's building the product, what are the challenges that he's facing, what everything that he's doing at the current moment. And this really helped me follow his journey. I really feel that I'm building the product with him. And I found that this is a super interesting way to share the way we build our products. And that's what I decided to do. So I decided to become a podcaster. If you'd ask me if I'd ever be a podcaster, I'd say for sure not. But I decided to try. And this experimentation, sometimes we like it, sometimes we don't. And in this one, I really enjoyed it. I get some energy from it. I always like to share things with people. I really like to communicate with people, even if I'm on the introvert side. And this is a way that I found to share in a more authentic way what I'm doing. And I'm enjoying it. I'm getting energy out of it. So I think that's the best feeling that I can have. When I started this journey, I didn't have a concrete goal that I wanted to achieve with this podcast. It's really just a pure experimentation and just sharing and be open with the community. And maybe some people will like it. But I didn't have a lot of expectation, to be honest. But with the time coming, I start to get some people listening to the podcast. Some people coming back to me. Oh yeah, you trigger some action on me with your podcast. So that's the best I could have get from this podcast so far. And I really enjoyed it. It's really like, it's not doing this for nothing. Thank you everybody that comes back to me and say that they just have listened to my podcast. These really touch me and really makes me getting motivation to keep going on this show. So really appreciate that. I don't know where this will gonna go, to be honest. I know that I want to get to the 100 episode, so that's two years in a row sharing weekly. I hope that I'll be able to make it. So far, I'm really happy. That's what I'm most happy about this journey is the consistency. This proves myself that if I want, I can make it. It's just to be rigorous, trust the process, don't miss it, show up here regularly, and I think at some point I will get much more from it than what I'm getting today. I'm really trusting this process into that direction. I don't know what. I don't have a concrete goal exactly what I want to get from it, but I'm sure that this creates some kind of personal brand and some kind of empathy between me and my listeners, and that people relate with me. They know, they get much more familiar with me than when if I'm not sharing this. The same way I'm feeling that I'm building with Arvid, I'd like people to follow my journey and to be also kind of feeling the same with my journey of building in public. So far, this has been a really great experimentation, and I will keep doing it. Just keep sharing your feedback, keep tuning into the podcast, keep sharing what you think about it, and I think I can keep making it. I can tell you that not everything is easy, especially before starting. I always have the fear of what people are gonna think about it. What is my English good? Is my content valuable? Will people relate to it? Are they gonna be interested in listening to my voice for 10 to 15 minutes? There were a lot of psychological barriers in my mind that I didn't want to start in the beginning. But one thing that I challenge you is to not let your brain, your mind block you on trying new things. You can get surprised. Don't bother what others might think about what you're doing. Do it for yourself, not do it for them. Of course, there will be people that they will like it. There will be people that will not like it. It's normal. Doesn't matter those that don't like it. Focus on those that like. Try to get energy from those people that like the things that you do. And don't bother with what others will say. I've talked with many people that also wanted to either start videos, started posting on other socials, start thinking and doing and starting. And just the initial step of starting is the biggest barrier. of all of them. So try to get that step and don't bother too much with the others. Focus more on yourself. I think that's the best learning I get from these experimentations, to be honest. But then coming back to the content itself, I think that's also one of the hardest part for me sometimes to get content. Like, for example, this episode. I didn't know exactly what to talk about this week because I'm also traveling to Portugal this week. I'm not at my current place, so have less time to build things and have time to get inputs for the topics for my work. But for example, in the middle of the week, I shared that I was doing these podcasts on the 17th episode, and Arvid in one of the tweet just shared that, oh, that's massive. So I start thinking, whoa, maybe that I can share a little bit more about this journey. It's already more than 4 months on these podcasts, so I think it would be already time to share a little and revisit this experience. So it's a good topic to share about it. Also, at the same time, this week, several people shared with me that they were having this barrier of starting something because they were thinking of what others are thinking about, what they want to share. So this decided me to get into this topic of this podcast for this week. But it's not always easy to find topics that are relevant and interesting. And most of my podcasts, if I look back, maybe the topics were not the best. But at least I show up. I come here, I did the podcast, I try to edit, I try to post it and learn from it. Some episodes I posted in one way, other episodes I posted slightly different. Some I invested more in editing, others less. But always trying to find small different angles to see if something might work better than others. Because this editing part, to be honest, it's one of the most painful. It's the one that I don't get energy out of it, and that I could improve a lot. I know that, but on the other side, I'm doing this because I want to get also energy from it. And if the parts that are not getting energy from it, I try to not invest too much. But this limits my reach, this limits my growth of the podcast. And so I think that's something at some point I might need to revisit that strategy and find better angle to grow a little bit more this podcast. Even if I'm not growing a lot, even if I don't have a lot of listeners, even if my audience is very limited, just the fact that I'm sharing and being more public, especially sharing on LinkedIn, also on Twitter, but more on LinkedIn, this allowed me to wake up some of these dormant ties that I had. I have already a big network on LinkedIn because all my past experience, professional experience, have been connected from university, from the different works that I did, from all my past experience. I try to get the contacts from everybody that I worked with and interact on LinkedIn. So my audience there exists. But I've never been active there, or a lot. But just the fact that I'm sharing these small videos, these podcasts, small snippets from the podcast, some topics caught the attention of some of my previous colleagues and friends. And these already woke up some of these connection that I had that I had never reached back to them. And that's really good. Just today, I just been with a friend that saw some of my videos and decided to reply to one of my messages that was waiting to be answered for a while. And because I never follow up as well, so it's not his fault. It's really that we tend to not take care of these relationships. So the fact that I'm public and sharing this and people see them, there's a lot of consumers on these social networks. So just the fact that people are consuming my content and knowing about me or this triggers the reaction and they can come back to me. So I got already quite a few replies from people that I was not expecting just because of this fact. So this is another great result from this experimentation that I'm doing in this podcast. I should maybe not talk so much about experimentation because I'm no longer experimenting. I'm just doing it. I need to be conscious that I'm now a podcaster, even if I try not to think like that, but I kind of am more on a solo sharing. I also did an interview, which was really great, the conversation that I had with Daniel, but I'll try to focus more this on me just sharing some thoughts. Eventually, I might have more people in the show. I might have more interviews because I think it can be super valuable. I don't have an angle for that yet, so I don't want to invest too much into that perspective because it also takes a lot of time for the editing part. And I prefer to just keep sharing the essence of this podcast, keep sharing what I've done so far and what I'm building on it every week, and really try to let people build with me and feeling that they are following my journey. And the difficulties that I'm having, trying really to be honest, open, and help people wherever I can. Yeah, so if you are hesitating to create your own podcast, just take a chance. Don't stay with the first 2 episodes, 3 episodes. Just do it regularly. Define the cadence that you want. Try to get what you want to achieve with it, and go from there. Because it's very easy to just drop after 3, 4 episodes because you don't get any exposure. It's very hard to get people to get attention of people like 10 to 15 minutes. It's very hard. You need to create some connection before with those people, or you need to get some referrals or some people that you value that recommend this podcast to someone. So it's very hard. And I'm not caring too much about this, as I mentioned a few times already. But so don't take that as a measurement if you are successful or not with the podcast if you haven't tried it. So just go, just define what you want to achieve, and don't drop. Just keep showing, and I'm sure that you're gonna get positive outcomes from it. So even if you start your own podcast, just let me know, and I would be happy to subscribe and keep listening regularly. So just keep sharing your feedback, and thank you everybody that keeps listening. And if you are still there, just say hi again, and wish you a great week. Cheers.